I had a prize, I would give it to you for the longest introduction. And the sweetest.
Oh,
So, that was awesome. As she said, this is the book, The Attention Lesson. It was weird. Talking about Bennington is important because this book came out of there. I wrote this in about 6 months, this book. And then I wrote another book in about the 4 years since then. And then I had to decide what was going to go in here. So these are like one paragraph stories / prose poems, however you want to see it. Because I survive by teaching, it's called The Attention Lesson. And it's divided up into various categories such as warm-up exercises, word power, case studies, raw materials, how-to, puzzlers, answer sheets, making connections, other sources of evidence, and of course, what do you need if your grade's going down?
Show your work.
If your grade's going down, what do you need? Extra credit! Yeah! So, that's what it ends on. Talking about my name, PF. It stands for...
pretty fucked up.
Anybody have a nickname? Any nicknames? Anybody have any nicknames, Reb? Do you have a nickname, Reb?
They call me Becky.
Everybody has a nickname, right? So names are how we identify ourselves, right? If we don't have a name, who are we? Do we have an identity? So this is... Where am I? When I was a little kid, I'm going to read from about 3 or 4 different areas. As Reb said, I travel, I make money so I can travel, and that's what this book is. It kind of reads almost like a travelogue. Growing up, my dad had lots of different friends, and one of them was an attorney in Detroit. So this is what this one's all about. It's called 7th Street Exchange. I know an attorney who lives in Detroit. He's one of my father's friends. When I was little, the attorney bought me a hammock and tied it up between 2 oak trees. I didn't know his name, so I called him Thank You. A few years later, I labeled him Fred. When I was 24, I discovered that Fred was really Alan, and Alan was dying of cancer, but he was already lost to me. I gave his name to a girl on the street for a bone. Living in Chile, you never see English in a lot of different places once you get out of Santiago. But the one place I did see it was radio taxi on the side of the taxis. It all said radio taxi. So this is about radio taxi. When bummed or fucked, I spin the dial to radio taxi. It locks in missile-headed, urgent and needy, darts roaring from aircraft shadow on electrons to usher me forth, back or circle from armchair slump. And Christ, the cabbies are friendly. Willing to stoop, nurse me out of a head cramp, tease a highball from clutching, slap me back from the park where I twirled you, slow waltzing, sang, hold me closer, tiny dance hair, as you flopped away, sprawled unsmiling in the lap of a woman you'd later liken me to. The one so gone, she fed pigeons with her spit. Coming from Michigan, my ancestors were really involved in the lumber industry. So it's something that I may be working on in the future within the state of Michigan. And also in Oregon, and in the South too. This is called clear cut. For years at a hunching, she'd crank over the oaken stubs while the woodcutters stood by. She'd begotten them all and postured them perfectly. They held their distance like wolves in various live-action roles. One knee bent in moss, axe aloft, down swooping to pine or seesawing a slice of maple with double cross cut near another jack topping a redwood off in a tumble. You best take a break, her friends insisted after each. But she continued, choking the wee house with thousands posed on shelf, vanity, mantel, and still. It wasn't until the woodcutters circled in and forced her fingers into cuts that she knew enough to straighten up. My grandfather never really talked much during his life about his time as a bomber in World War II. But once he got Alzheimer's, he kind of forgot where he was, and so he would mix up being a kid and being involved in the war and his present life. So out came all these stories that he was never able to consciously deal with. So that got me thinking about this one and kind of even pushing it back into World War I. This is called The Trench. And also not only the people who served, but the people who didn't. The trench. In the yellow morning, he stumbled back from the trench. It was just a half step. An elephant-masked men followed with guns through the cloud. Soon the haze rasped his throat, and the waiting dock girls cheered. His eyes were next. They fell to fizzle, and he was miles away, with a woman on each arm, returning by limousine with plans from the cocktail party. He would knot them soft in bed until they cried, "America." It's called One by One. When I was in Chile, I visited the houses that Pablo Neruda lived in, and one is obviously famous, Isla Negra, and he obviously wrote several books there. And it's an interesting tour because they let you go. The house is built like a boat, and he never went on boats, but he loved. Yeah, he collected things from all over the world, and it's amazing. When you go into the last room, he has this giant shell that's about this tall, and there's a horn of a narwhal. Anybody know what that is? Mm-hmm. It's like the unicorn fish, and it's this giant sexual symbol. It's about this big, and then it has the shaft of the narwhal coming out of it. So this is called, and so there are writers, there are all these different kinds of people who are around, and this is called One by One. Last night, her grinding jaw slipped into my slumber. I awoke to the grit, rolled her over, and remembered the man on Isla Negra. He chaired near the entrance, bedding a box with his accomplished sheets beside his whacking typewriter. After prompting, he explained his tale, that certain dogs, using aura sensing, can feel a seizure prior to human tickle or swoon detection. And I knew when I saw her cheeks twitch that an internal howling had loosed the dogs. They dug a hole under the man's mouth and squeezed through the fence, one by one, into hers. I'm going to read one more for the guy that I met on the train when I was coming here. It's called Scheme of the Hedgerow Lovers. Sorry I can't get through your thick book about the hedgerow lovers in Old England. It seems like a classic, and I've tried many times. But the problem is the invisible scheme. IS has infiltrated all expanses between your page and my eye. Now everything I read is coded and becomes a vegan recipe, narrated by California kids in jumpsuits. So far I have collected 117 recipe translations of your work. IS has made it clear that they intend to publish these recipes next month in a collection. Although I'm elated about this development, future work has ebbed, as the kids are off on vacation, touring the hedgerows of lovers in Old England. Thank you.